How's it doing here? In this video, I'll be showcasing my latest devlog in which I'm actually making my first game in the game engine.
Ah, that sounds fantastic.
It is rather.
It's a cool moment for you because I mean you created this game engine, you waffled a bit, you said you could do all these things,
And you can. And
and
it
you
turns out you can.
and you can. It's magic. It's yeah,
Yes.
it's amazing, isn't
Way better than Unity and Godot and all the other silly game engines. Just
it?
way
Yeah,
better.
right. Okay,
I
cool.
love it.
Okay,
Brilliant.
cool. So maybe you can just tell us what you've been up to since the last
It's probably quite a while ago, the
yeah.
last devlog
So
actually.
basically you did some maths in it, right? You
So
did
I added some collision. I've added I've added a little box collider so you can in which I'm actually needing a bit of trigger detection because I'm making sure that if you hit something, it gives a little debug and changes the scoring.
okay, but maybe you can
But mostly the engine has remained unchanged, except all I've added really for this game while making the game, the engine has remained pretty much unchanged, apart from adding that little collision.
so originally we came up with an idea because we do walks in the morning. We stay in a really pretty area out in the bush in Africa, dark Africa, because we are real Africans. And we actually go for a walk. And I just thought, wow, it'd be pretty cool if we had like an endless runner, if you could develop an endless runner, or like a hybrid endless runner in a farming area. On our walk, we have these crazy insects and animals and sheep and
We pretty much
ducks
make it
and trains and all this kind of thing. So I thought, why don't we create a endless runner where we dodge poos and dodge animals and stuff? So what did we call it? We called it.
it was Splat.
You have to think there. You created this game and you actually forgot what the bloody thing was called. Anyway, it's called Splat.
Yes,
And
which I think is quite a good name for it. But
we have a secret weapon. We actually have my partner, my wife and Jordan's mom is actually I mean, like Jordan and like myself, we are creative and she one of her talents is she can draw beautifully.
and you drew these brilliant sprites for the game.
And yeah, some of the fantastic sprites of the game because it really brings out the game. I mean, there's so many developers out there, um, but to have a secret weapon that someone can draw
Having
sprites,
an unpaid artist that can draw sprites for you is
yes.
great.
And she's like a hardcore programmer. She's probably one of the best programmers out there. So yeah, so and to be someone that is creative and is an artist also and a serious developer is a real boon. But anyway, so that's what we did. We developed you developed an endless runner. I
Yep.
gave you till today to come up with something really cool on the game engine because we don't,
Yeah, and this game only took a couple days, really.
yeah, okay.
So
So
it's quite fast to
what were
make.
the problems that you dealt with?
The problem. So first of all, I had to add a bit of UI, and I actually remade the UI twice. So the first UI I did, I it was quite different. So I decided to make it a completely separate part of the. It was completely separate from normal objects. Like Unity, it was like a special object. You had to apply a special tag to it, and I believe it's called a tagging protocol. Basically, you have a protocol, which is a little protocol. You can name it something, and I named it UI. And if you wanted to make a UI, it would always draw on top, and you could just add the protocol to it, and you'd have to make a whole UI sprite shape. It wasn't necessary.
Slow down, Tiger. I know.
So
Slow
instead,
down.
what I did is I just made it to use it was just a normal object. You had to make sure it was stuck to the front, which was, I quite liked. You could, for some reason, make it underneath different layers. It worked with the layer system properly. And we have buttons now, text. The text was a bit of pain to make. I think I will remake it later on. But we have a UI text component. You give it the text, which is score 999, which is just a temporary placeholder. We give it a size, And we have 3 different sizes, which is a bit of pain to keep track of, but to have, or I believe 2 different sizes, yeah. So we have the size of the actual 3 different sizes. Yes, we have the size of the object, we have the size of the texture, and we have this size, which is another size of the fonts. So you have 3 different sizes you have to keep track on.
And you also worked
Yeah, it's a bit of
I
pain.
remember you mentioned the font now. You developed the fonts, which
Yes,
is
I made a
quite
nice
painful.
system so you can load fonts, and I had so many problems with it. So I just put in the font's name, which would make sense, but
Anyway, how did you develop the font system? You used
well,
what?
it's mostly done for me using, if we just check the code, I've forgotten exactly what it's called. Not in here. If we open engine,
This is when you know you should have good documentation.
yes, but I don't know. There's like low level. It's more in the engine, not low level. But if we go UI text system and we go render text to image, which is somewhere down here in this mess, it's using some where is it? It's like draw glyphs. Yeah, you have to do some complicated layout managers and which draws all the glyphs. You give it a font, an NS font, which was a pain to get as well. The whole font system was a bit of pain to get because I had to draw to a texture, and which is a bit irritating. Like Unity, it's each character is a different little object, which is quite nice. It lets you do some without regenerating the texture. You have one texture. I assume I haven't looked at Unity's code. Obviously, you can't, but I think they have a texture of the font. They split it up into little images. They apply it to each character's little rects. And then you can scale it up and add spacing and everything. And Unity can add real nice rich text.
So what can you do with your fonts? You can pretty much.
My fonts are a lot more limited. You like each character can't be a different texture or so I think I will redo them eventually. But I'm happy they work so far. So
Okay, great. So you're able to create then in
you
your
have a little
engine,
scoring text at the top
you have
of
a
it right
scoring
now.
text which uses a font. But you can create any fonts now?
Yes, so it turns out you have to use input the font name as a postscript font name, which oh such a pain to figure out. But now we input a postscript name, and you get a postscript name from this app on Mac called Fontbook, I think. We click on the font, you get its postscript name, you copy it over and place it in a string, and then all load it. It has nothing to do with the actual name, which is a bit weird of the file.
Anyway, yeah,
However, it
that's
works
interesting.
now though, which I'm quite happy with it.
So you're able to do the scoring with that. You've got scoring working. We've
Yes.
got the game.
Basic trigger detection. So if we go to one of the animals, where is it? Oh, it's the player controller. It has handle collisions, and all it does is loops through all the colliders, and you can already see
So when you talk
the name.
about
But
collisions, you're not using any physics
no,
engine or
I'm
anything.
not doing rigid body physics. I'm just doing basic trigger detection, and
And
it's
you
very
created that
basic
you
trigger.
created it yourself, or is it something
I
that
mean, I don't reinvent the wheel that much. So I
yes.
just watched a video on how it works, and it works. I mean, it's very basic there. It doesn't handle rotations. So I have to fix that using the separating axis theorem, which is if objects are not colliding, uh, so if they're not colliding, you can draw a line through them
Okay.
between them, which I don't know how to do yet. That'll be the next phase of the trigger detection, where you're just looping through it, calculating a collision, which all it does is it passes in 2 square colliders, and it does a rect intersect, which is this rather complicated looking big mess of code.
Yeah. Okay, great. And what else did you guys you obviously did some scaling issues with the game and everything like that.
Scaling issues? No, so far there haven't been any real issues with the game engine, and no bugs or
But you made the window scale properly, though. You said you had some
oh
issues.
yes, so I'd have to run it to show you. So
Okay, so let's play the endless run, the first legitimate game, but we just sort of do some crazy stuff with it, some funny stuff.
yes,
But this is the first scene, right?
yes,
Which I
correct.
think I haven't played it. I actually haven't played. I've seen it. It's really funny.
Yeah, it is very.
And this is running on your game engine. So I mean, it's a legit thing, man. You should be proud of yourself.
Yeah, it's all very basic. Like this kind of code Unity might use. Like you'd write this kind of code. It's very similar to how Unity, you'd write Unity code or
Yeah.
make Go dots. It's just like really simple, very high level writing the code. It's
Okay,
and
go
if
for
you
it.
want to delve into low level, you can with
Okay.
special systems. But you still don't have to go that low level for rendering. So let's run it.
Okay. So let's make it full
But yeah, you
screen.
can make a full screen now without scaling issue.
So you've got a
So you have little animals and they poo and you must dodge the poo. That's pretty much a good description of. Oh no, we splat the poo. You can splat poos. You can splat. Oh, I love the cow poos. They're so cute, the little animations. And I love the cows. They're pooping animation.
but obviously this is just a prototype and you're going to create and I see there's a seam there, there's a seam there.
We have the little text up here. The cows, very funny animations. I love them. Oh, they're brilliant. The piggy.
But obviously you have no sound yet and you're
Yes,
going to create
I don't know how I
crazy
decided.
amounts of um, maybe fields on the left and right, make it bigger.
Yes, we'd have like fields and I quite like the road, but apparently it's only phase one of the road. We'll redo it. We'll also have a combine harvester down below. And if you'll notice, you go too far, you get ground up. And if we just let it run, we'll actually say minced player in the debugs, but
Hmm.
and hit animal and it has all the collisions and actually you might notice it actually affects the score. So our score got negative then. When it gets negative, eventually you'll quit the game.
Yeah, I knew, you obviously
It'll
have to
give a
look.
game over screen, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
And if you hit an animal, it explodes and
yes,
something
of
like,
course. And it minuses like 40 or 50 points of wrong,
yeah.
which yeah, it all works there. And I can't wait to get the combine harvester sprites and the wheat field sprites. That'll be cool. And we'll have a bunch of different scenes. You'll have the wheat field and the farm and animals. Then you'll have another jungle scene, maybe. It's more jungle themed. We have giraffes, and I was even thinking eventually you could have boss fights where you have like elephants with like gigantic poos. That'd be quite funny.
Yeah,
Then
that
you
would be
start
funny.
them.
What about
There'll be a boss fight before you go to the next level.
what's the next? How are you going to create physics?
I'm going to do some great reinventing of the wheel. And
Okay, just some basic things for this 2D.
so I'm probably going to follow a little course on 2D physics and port it over to my game engine using systems. I know in the last video I think I was wanting to use Box 2D, but I'm just thinking that probably that doesn't use entity component system, and I'd rather keep it vanilla, completely Swift.
Yeah,
Well, mostly Swift. So I'm trying to stick to Swift and Metal.
yeah. Okay, great. That looks awesome. Is there anything else that you can show us on the code that you've
Few
done?
little quality of life features like before, I believe before that everything was in one big file, but now I've made it so each shader, the fragment shader or vertex shaders, each in their little files. And they import from a H file, a header file with called common structures, which has all these basic data types like camera and model data and vertex out and vertex, which you can import from. Just made cleaned up some code, and if you need to write your shader, the user needs to write the shader, they can just import from common structures as well. And also I made a whole system so you can send custom data over to your custom shaders. So let's say your shader requires a special float or an integer or a texture, you can pass that in using my custom Swifty, my abstraction layers like Swifty rendering commanding code and stuff, which has really helped actually. So I can make little changes like fixing the camera system without having to change hundreds of components. I mean, at this point though, it's not hundreds, but it is a pain to change it. To change that every single one. I mean, they're
Every
quite a
single
lot.
one of what?
Every single system, rendering system, would be a pain. I mean, I'd have to change all of these with these
And your
significant
core,
changes.
you originally, it's no errors, no problems that you.
Swiftly has no errors, but I do want to improve it from a commenters suggestions. So like if we open it up here, like making sure that you can't reset the instance variable of entity manager and other classes, which would be is terrible actually. So I'll fix that. That should be all be quite easy though. Fixes. And another fix is just to make it not a public static variable. And I actually tried that, and I pushed it up to the testing branch, but it doesn't. It's quite hard to implement in my Swifty. Requires a lot of changes, and I think it would work. It's just a lot of changing, like dozens and dozens of components and systems I have to change.
You should do it
And
soon.
there's the downside of wide components and wide systems inheritance from protocols, because you have to change dozens of systems. If you change like a single character in a protocol, you have to replace all
It's
of
like a
these.
cascade.
It is a huge cascade effect. It's terrible, but I have to do it eventually. But just
Yeah,
I don't
cool.
feel like doing it anytime soon.
Anything else you
I've
did?
also added a little. I've fixed the mouse and keyboard input system. Nothing. It's a bit. Yeah, it's not very exciting. I've also added these simple little input dot keyboard up, keyboard down, left and right, which all it does is it merges the input, the up down arrow keys and the WAS and D keys. Quite simple, but just the little quality of life things mostly. But yeah, and of course I made the window scale properly, so to fix the camera now. So as you see, it scales without stretching the window. So you could do this and it'd still work. It wouldn't do stretching at all. Which I did some aspect ratios. Yes, aspect ratios. So I've set height and I just change and I set the width. And eventually I'll make it so you can choose which to set, the width or the height,
Interesting.
which is quite cool.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. And
I
what
think
else?
the next big thing I need to add to Swifty is adding proper error handling, because currently it just crashes. And Swifty Core is actually really helpful with that. A lot of the problems, like forgetting to add a component, Swifty just crashes, but Swifty Core also gives a full error message describing exactly what happened and what line of code it is. Oh, I love Swifty Core's error handling. It's brilliant. If I could add that to Swifty, it would be the way better than Unity, I'd say.
Yeah, come on. Seriously.
Well, Unity's 3D and 2D, and
Yeah, yeah.
but I like it better than Unity.
And what's the expense of this? What are you finding some issues?
The one issue I think that is relatively big is if we run it, and let's just wait for a few poos to spawn and animals to spawn. And no, where's I'm using some release thing. Okay, let's change that to Swifty. There we go. That was building for some release build which had no debugging features anymore. So let's just wait for it to see here. Now you have the low metal GPU debugger.
You're also going to do after this, don't, I just want to say you're going to explain all the how expensive it is, and you're going to show us all the
It's
debugging and
actually
memory usage and how amazing it is to.
it is quite crazy, but as you see, there are quite a lot of objects in spawned, and each object is a separate draw call, which, as far as I know, is not very good. I mean, there are no GPU warnings anymore. There used to be full of GPU warnings, and I think there are a few here, which I'm not sure why, but I'll fix those soon.
Okay, cool. And what about the memory
But yeah,
and
the idea is you don't draw every single object as a different draw call. I'm not sure how to optimize it, but sure, apparently that's a thing I need to do eventually.
and also you're going to show us the mapping of the memory.
Yes. So if we
Very
just press
awesome.
play, and I haven't found a use for it yet, and the project's quite big, so it's quite complicated. But they make a whole memory map for everything, and this is exactly what's in memory. So we can like check in the square collider, see what's happening, check in the scene manager, see what's happening in memory, every single variable, everything. Wherever a malloc is.
I mean, I haven't seen this in any other IDE. It's pretty
No,
insane. Eh?
I mean, it's not in Visual Studio Code, I'll tell you that,
Yeah,
but
of course not.
it's
That's a rich
amazing.
editor, yeah.
Sheesh, imagine IntelliJ owning this. They'd make you pay like $1 million a month. It's brilliant
It
though, for
might, they
free.
might have this. I have no idea. I haven't.
I don't think so, but it's for free. What? It's so cool though. I love it. They have all the animal components. But yeah, for memory debugging, apparently it's really useful, but I haven't, it's just a bit complicated for me at this point. And even for simple projects, I think it's a bit complicated for me. I need to learn how to use it properly. But it is quite big game engine at this point, so it's kind of hard to debug, like little memory. And I checked in like what's it called? Like not activity monitor, but there's some monitoring tool. and it said I have memory leaks. I don't believe I do. I don't believe I've left it running for a while.
Okay.
But sure, it's
Well,
working.
and your the actual, how long have you run the game for in the background, and have you seen how much memory it's usage?
Not really. I mean,
What
it
does the
still
game
uses a
run?
bit of memory. It's using 208 meg.
Okay, that's not a lot at all. Wow.
It's actually more than you would think, but if we go just if we capture the metal, we go to memory, you can see exactly what's in memory. How cool is this? And we can see all the textures though that are loaded into memory at this point.
Remember
So you can see a ton of these little textures in
also
here.
how you're running the game and how you remember Mom said, why don't you spawn it? Why did you do it a little bit differently?
Oh, because why don't I reuse textures in the
Yes.
memory?
Yeah.
I tried that, and apparently it's an optimization Meta already does. I'm not
Okay.
sure though.
Explain what the reasoning
So
around that
I
was.
was thinking that why would you need so many duplicate textures in memory? So I just reuse them. But and ChatGPT said it'd work fine. Just reuse it, and it's stored in memory. It stays there. No, it's completely junk.
Another hallucination.
Yes. Oh, this is actually quite cool. You can see this texture. It's kind of hard to see if we just open it. We can see the actual text. This is what the UI text tool generates. So
Okay.
it generates a new texture every frame, and it's quite cool. It generates this little text, and I wish it was in the center. I don't know how to move it into the center, so it's a bit irritating me because I have to move it to an offset, but it works. It works fine. So
That really cool. Let's play another game quickly and see how. There's so much that you can actually
this
do with
timer
it.
is quite simple. It just adds every second or half second or something like that. Gone with the exact amounts are. But and then if you hit an animal, delete it.
Takes 30 off or something, you
Yes,
said.
something like that. Yeah.
And
And
then,
the poos only splat if you hit him with a wheel, which is quite cool. So if you do that, it'll be fine. If you hit it with a wheel, splat.
ah,
Ah. No, it's
uh,
fine. Ah, but yeah, the cow, like if you hit it that, it should be fine.
and how did you do the animation?
That's very simple. So mom just drew a couple sprites, very basic sprites, for little walks, like two sprites for walk and one sprite for pooing. Like you see. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm showing this off on my channel, but very funny, but very cute though. Oh. But I'm just doing every like 0 0.1 seconds we switch the frame for walking, and and when we pooing it just sticks to the same frame and stops for like 0 0.3 seconds or something. I don't know what the timings are. But yeah, it's also very dynamic to make if we just go over to animal. Very dynamic to add new animals, which I'm very happy with. So we just have like, let's say we need a new animal, we just copy this,
Oh, that
change
looks
these
really good.
values.
It's very simple.
So yeah,
Wow.
like it's really easy to add a new sheep and a cow. Like the cow took like 5 minutes. It only took quite long because the textures were slightly wrong with sizes. Just easy fix. Just get Photoshop and resize something.
Yeah.
We try and get animal, then I just made a raw value and I kind of faked an enum, I guess, but I made my own enum. I wish enums would be able to have classes. If you don't know what I mean, if we go enum and rename it Bob, I wish it could have a return value. So in case you didn't know, enums can have return values, but it needs to have some raw representable inheritance. So something on animal data, which yeah, and maybe I'll fix it one day, but for now this works perfectly. I can add new animal really quickly. Just add this, go to game, and change it so I'm not sure where we spawn it. Oh, also I decided to use the factory class. And the factory to
That sounds familiar.
yes,
That's a classic.
I was nearly called it poo factory. The poo factory, which made all the poos and stuff, and it just makes the entity. It's really simple, just makes the objects quite quickly. But as you see, I mean, it's quite basic code.
Explain the factory class to us.
Well, it's a special. All it is it's just a static class where you can just go factory.create animal, give it to animal data, and I believe if we go show callers, yes, occasionally it doesn't work for some reason. but it gives all you have to do to create an animal is go animal type presets dot get animal, and that's the class we're talking about. And we go uint dot random uint. I used to think it was just a small int, so I don't know how it got smaller, but it turns out obviously it just can't be negative. But unsigned. So we go uint, just spawns a new random animal index between 0 and 2. That's how many animals I've got, 0, 1, 2. And whenever I add a new animal, I can just go 3 or 4 or 5, however many animals I need.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and to get the timing is always the same amount. I just go current animal spawn time plus by time.delta time, which is the time between each frame. So the time stays constant, no matter how slow or fast your computer is.
Yeah, that's Delta time.
And then we reset it. And
That's
here I'm
great.
setting the text, which regenerates the texture. So yeah, it's
So it's
working.
so we just have to trick mom into creating some nice pretty sprites.
Just a couple more sprites, really, a few screens. I mean, it's pretty far. I'm quite happy with it so far.
Yeah, and just that weird seam and maybe fields on both sides and
Yes.
more interesting stuff. And then I think that's your first legitimate game on your first engine. Could
Yeah,
be like, it's like a university degree.
sure, the engine's great. I'm very happy with it. As you see, our little time class.
I mean, I couldn't have done this in my university third year. There's no way. So yeah, that's great, man.
I don't know if Swift existed back then, though.
But I'm just saying, like a Java back then it was
Yes.
Java, and there's no way.
I actually made a little Java game engine once. It's quite cool.
Anyway,
But I think the Swift one's slightly better. Yeah, by a long shot. But yeah, the entity component system has not failed me yet. I'm loving the Swifty rendering code. It makes life a lot easier. So if we run it, I'm actually doing some optimizations. They'd be a lot harder without my abstraction layer. Like resetting the main camera only once instead of resetting it every single object and every single draw call, which is great. So we're setting the vertex sprite for the camera. It's easy to set the material. We're doing some special stuff like setting the model data dot color and the use vertex color. Which nowadays, I think I'll remove this because I actually completely dropped support for vertex colors.
okay.
Which I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but I can't imagine anyone. I've never used vertex colors really. And 2D games, yeah, I don't know how many 2D games use vertex colors. If you wanted vertex color, just use a texture, normal texture. But well, I don't think anyone's going to be unhappy. I remove vertex colors, just removes a bit of unnecessary code then. We have
So,
set fragment bytes, vertex bytes, yeah, pretty much unchanged. Yeah, it's all working well.
yeah, it's very exciting. And I mean, I know I said, well, why don't we try put this in the back burner for a month, and you can build a 3D engine 1 month and go back to the 2D engine in the next month.
This is the
Because I
first time.
know,
This is the first time ever that I've wanted to stick to a project and you've wanted to get me to start new projects.
yeah,
It's usually the other way around, and
yeah,
that's quite
I give you
easy.
challenges. I give you challenges. Yeah, yeah.
Sure, it's been very successful so far.
Are you excited about it? It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I think the next big thing is error handling documentation, which would be quite nice. But Swifty cause I think once I fix those few errors and which will be quite good.
Yeah.
And I still want to.
Would you want to develop in it? Would you think it would be easy to develop in it? Maybe we could make this an almost executable, almost
It's
like a
already a package.
compiled.
It's already a package.
Okay.
It's already you can just import it from GitHub. It's all public, yeah.
And it would be nice to even have some docs of how you created this game properly, how you can expand on it, how other people can use it,
Yeah.
something like that.
Maybe this could be I would make this game public. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
I probably
absolutely.
would.
Yeah, it's
Just
not a
let
big deal.
people use it and
Have fun and see how
really
you code
expand
it.
on it. So I just keep this part of the game, this stage of the game public as a little Indus runner.
Yeah.
A little
Make
release.
everything public.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Anyway, that's cool, man. That's exciting. I think next week we're going to start with the 3D engine. That's going to be awesome.
Right. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Okay, awesome. And anything else that you want to talk about to end off this? Or,
Well, for the next video, I think, not the next video. So I think after I've done this little game, I think I would love to move over to 3D as well.
yeah, do
That's
some
quite
just
cool.
because you have been working on 3D a lot, right? You've
Yeah,
done the
most of my
voxels.
channel is 3D actually.
Yeah.
So
So go back, but you won't, but this will be exclusively doing it through Swift.
yes, yes, the idea is Swift Metal. Might even, yeah, I don't think I'd try without Metal Kits. I think I'll stick to Metal Kit, not pure Metal.
Yeah, it's a bit hectic. Or maybe you will. Who knows?
They're pretty much the same. We just add some easy to load models really.
Okay, cool.
And a bit easier texturing. So yeah, nothing much. But well, I think this was quite a cool update. I like the game so far. I'm doing it properly now to actually before I made the entire game in the game script, which is terrible, and literally throwing away the core engine entity component system, which is bad. So instead I've added most of the logic in other components and systems, which has been great. And there's still some code, like game-wide code, like adding the score and, I don't know, spawning animals and stuff
Maybe you
like
could
that.
abstract away from that, maybe more logical spaces.
But this is perfect. I think the layout of this game is fine. It's expandable because entity component system. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, well, I
Okay.
think we can end off the video
Awesome.
now.
Tot
Auf
ziens.
Wiedersehen. Tot
Tot ziens.
ziens. Tschüss.
Salaguchle.
Yep. Don't know how to say that, but bye.